Good evening, I'll call the regular city of White Lakes Council meeting of Monday, April 22nd, 2024 to order. Roll call please.
Scott.
Here.
Beauregard.
Here.
Grams. Here. Kramer. Zins.
Here. Could everybody please stand for the pledge of allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the next item is the consent agenda. Has everybody had a chance to go over the consent agenda? If so, is there a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Councilor Beauregard, is there support?
I'll support that.
Supported by Councilor Scott. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Yes, citizen, anybody want to address the council? Okay. Reports from staff, city administrator Lenny.
We have been having a conflict for scheduling for the hiring committee for the administrative clerk. So I'm wondering if you could appoint an additional counselor besides yourself, Mayor Zins, to that committee.
Yeah, like to make a motion to appoint, Councilor Grams, Ryan. Their support.
I'll support.
Motion made by Mayor Zinn, supported by Councilor Border. Any further discussion? Sherry, you're okay with that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Anything else? Public utilities, Jake.
Waiting for construction to come back and finish up at the wastewater plant. Kelly just completed another pilot study at the water plant as far as finding a new chemical for treatment. Very promising results with this Hawkins chemical. So I think after we use up our current Purifloc supply, we're gonna switch over to that 15567. We're pumping it at the same heat rate and it's doing a much better job of cleaning up the water, so. And it is way cheaper, it's 39 cents a pound, the current stuff we're getting is about 65, 67 cents a pound, somewhere out there, so. Should drop the price for chemical usage quite a bit for us. I wanna say thank you to the citizens that have sent in, I know letters went out for the lead service line inventory we're doing. I really appreciate the photos I am receiving on that, and I appreciate the people who have taken the time to call with questions. We will come in and take a picture ourselves if you would like us to, if you're unable to get down and do it yourself. We have now got notification from the Department of Health, so that, we can have an engineering firm take it on, so Bolton and Nick will be getting with me and taking that over. So this summer, you may see people coming door to door. For those that haven't turned in a picture, just to request the ability to come in and take a picture of the service line. I'll know more as we get into that conversation, timelines and all that. This is something we have to have complete by July 15th and submitted to the state by August 15th.
So on the original construction of homes in White Lakes, those lines, what?
To my knowledge, everything in town is copper. I don't have anything in writing from the 1950s when the town was built stating that though. So that is why I have to get a picture of the incoming service line. There might be more of that later on, just for verification, but I don't know what that looks like coming up. We'll have to wait and see what the Department of Health does. Right now, they're making a big push to remove all lead service lines in the United States. So. And then aside from that, I've been working on the PFAS lawsuit. There's a class action lawsuit with DuPont and 3M right now. And we got involved in that because we did have detectable limits of PFAS. It is small amounts, so I don't know how much the city will get back. But we'll see. Might as well have our hat in the ring and see what happens there.
Claims been made.
As far as us, yeah, we have our city on the list, so if there is money coming back. And if we have to treat in the future, this will go towards that. That's all I got other than agenda items for tonight.
All right. Joel, you have anything?
Thank you, Mayor. No, I don't have anything at this time.
Reports from elected officials, Councilor Graham.
I have a couple things. The library is hosting some Iron Ranger gatherings. The first one will be tomorrow at the library at 4:30. And then in May and June, they'll have one a month following on different topics of what it means or what it's like to be a ranger. So everyone's invited to attend those. I'm also working with the coordinator for the bicycle around Minnesota group. They'll be here in August. I did email a couple different groups. They're looking for people to host events, provide food, just kind of show off the town and provide something for them to do. There'll be about 350 bicyclists in town on August 7th and staying the night and leaving in the morning. So I'll keep trying to coordinate different groups and see if we can give them something to do while they're here.
Thank you. Councilor Barnard.
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Councilor Scott.
Nothing for.
And I don't have anything. Moving on to old business. 10-1, Birchwood Terrace Park update.
Previously, the council had, contacted them, or they contacted us about purchasing the trailer court property. And so the owner did follow up with me and indicate he would be willing to sell the property to the city between $375,000 and $400,000. It's about 23 acres in size. I wanted to let you know that information. If you want to consider it and have me put it on the next agenda, we can do that. If you want to approve it or deny it right now, that would also be an option for you. We did talk about several different uses for that property, including, things like contractor housing or a more permanent campground. Some similar to seasonals, but people could leave their campers there year round. Those are some different options for that property, but just a reminder, the street and infrastructure does need to be redone in that area. So that would be an additional cost in addition to the purchase price that you'd be taking on this purchase.
When is the deadline that they want to go by?
He didn't really give, he kind of said end of summer, but he's trying to sell multiple parks throughout the state, and so it's kind of whatever. It seems like it's more negotiable. Sorry, so.
I'd like to make a motion just to table this for tonight. I think we've got some bigger items coming up on the agenda to discuss.
And you just like our next meeting agenda?
Yeah, give us some time.
And if you have any questions or anything you want me to reach out and find answers to, I can do that and get it back on the next agenda. So.
I guess one thing, let's find out what their deadline is.
And as far as like the infrastructure, is there any way for us to be able to see what it's like? I assume it's functioning, but right now people live out there. I assume they're getting their water and flushing their toilets just fine, but is there any way for us to be able to kind of see what that looks like? We have a lot of breaks in that section and the road itself is in pretty rough shape. And so I think if we were to take that on, it would be the strong recommendation of Public Works, Public Utilities, and myself to update it all. Just to assume it would need to be redone, yes.
Jake, from your side, is that something that should be rectified with an easement of some sort, with whether it's the current landowner, the next landowner?
as far as redoing all that infrastructure.
Well, just to take ownership of it and to have an easement just like we do for every other street now. So then we're relying on a landowner to fix a water main break that's
Yeah.
more of a city scale that they're doing with a private party.
Yeah, personally, I feel responsible for that water system because it is a huge connection to our existing water system. I would like to have control over getting it replaced. Some of that stuff is pretty old cast iron, been in there since the town was built. Fire hydrants aren't so great there either. When something breaks, I'm relying on them to do the right thing and repair it right now, so. It's kind of. Yeah, an easement or something, but. If something breaks and you fix it right, I can't just duct tape it together. So. I'm not good with legalities on that
And it's not the city's responsibility necessarily to fix it.
currently right now.
It would be to shut it off at the end of the cycle.
Yeah, there's three main lines that run into there. Currently, we only have one open, I believe. Because they have had multiple breaks out there, be it service lines or main lines. That way, when something does happen, if we do have to shut it off, then we have to hit one or two valves.
I can definitely also, when I ask the owner about the deadline, ask about the easement through there. Because, you know, there is no easement, so it's all privately owned, but what he would be looking for that.
Anybody else have anything on that? All right, moving on to 11.1. Placement of water project on 2025 project priorities for the drinking water revolving loan fund.
Well, good evening. So just want to provide you guys an update on where the status of the water study is and also what is in front of you specifically being the IUP and the PPL letters. That's item 1 and 2. If I can kind of combine them as one. And specifically what this is we are about halfway through the preparation of the water study. And so that's still on track to be delivered roughly in May and June timetable. But where we're at today is we still want to get the City of Point Lakes on the PFA funding list, which is to do that, you submit the IUP and the PPL letters specifically, and that just kind of gets you on the priority list and also just notifies that you guys are interested in doing a project in this next year. So like I said before, here are those IUP and PPL letters, and what they contain is they contain the various options that are to be explored in the water study. Those options are specifically to do nothing, regionalization with East Range Water Board, restoration of the existing water treatment plant, utilize the existing intake, construct a new water treatment plant and utilize existing intake, restoration of the existing water treatment plant using a new water source, and construction of a new water treatment plant and a new water source. So those IUP letters and PPL detail at least alternatives as we explore through the grant and go on through it. So to prepare these letters, we put together a cost model that looked at the various options. This was based off of historical information we have just on the cost of water plants, along with some conversations on what regionalization would look like. So based on the cost model of these letters, we're recommending regionalization with the East Range Water Board. And this is ultimately based on life cycle costs. So we looked at the restoration cost of the current water treatment plant and extrapolated it based on what buy-in the East Range Water Board would be. So we did have some of those look at those conversations previously, along with the costs that would be associated with regionalization, like I said. One thing I'd like to emphasize in this, in the preparation of these letters is that while they indicate and basically recommend regionalization, by no means does this lock you into this option in the near future. And this is really a stepping stone to get funding applications. The sooner you get on the list, the sooner that it is attainable to get funding. These things live on life cycles between bonding bills and other things. And so as Point Lakes moves forward in making a decision, we just wanted to get Point Lakes on a list as soon as possible. So as you move up the list, it's easier to get funding in the future here. And funding can be attained sooner than later. So again, I want to emphasize that even though the letters contain a recommended project, this project can be amended at a later date once we actually get through the final report and you guys have time to digest that report and make a decision. So again, ultimately, like I said, the letters in front of you are just a stepping stone to basically submit the applications, get on the list for 2025, which then in later years you can move up in the queue.
Jake, question.
Sure.
I see both of these are Minnesota. Are there any federal
Sure. And I can,
funding sources or grants?
that might be an option. I myself am not aware of those, but I know Brian, who I'm working with, would probably know, and I can actually ask that question and get back to you. So. But these would be specifically through Minnesota Drinking Water Revolving Fund for these. Now, in that, Brian wanted me to touch on another topic, which is affordability threshold. As we go through this next several months, kind of looking at the cost model with all the options and talking about funding in the future, there is a couple things that are incorporated in the regionalization. One of them is with that project, there's additional funding being procured for that project that have kind of dropped the entry point specifically to the buy-in. So as you guys are aware, with the East Range Water Board, there's a conversation about what it would take to come on board with the city of Aurora and the town of White. They're pursuing grants and other additional funds that could cover that would lower the entrance point. This is assuming that some of those applications and grants come. But from a long-term standpoint, as well as is looking at the city of White Lakes, there's a conversation that with further PFA funding, you could look at having potentially up to 50% of your costs of the project being covered just from affordability threshold through PFA. Brian's been working on those numbers and we're gonna fine tune those and have more conversation in the near future. But ultimately, the roughly 18 million that's put in front of here, that number we're anticipating is gonna get knocked down quite a bit. Through other funding sources, one being specifically PFA, possibly other sources, maybe looking at IRRR and other groups that would be interested in coming on and partner in the future.
Now, I know that, when they got the federal grant for that, White Lakes and Guada were also included in that, when the application was presented. Going forward, if White Lakes were to commit, you think that brings a better chance of them getting more funding?
Absolutely, because I think what a lot of these sources see is they like when they see partnership and collaboration occur. In many ways, regionalization to this area brings multiple benefits, it's one common facility, one water treatment facility providing for multiple users, multiple cities. That reduces O&M costs, that reduces the amount of infrastructure in the area. You don't have 3 or 4 plants sitting within 4 or 5 miles themselves, right, water supply plants. So it offers the opportunity of having that sort of partnership mentality, which they like to see in grants, is when you start working together, so.
Thank you.
In your study, you have the 5 options. Is there a reason that, like an underwater well wasn't looked at or?
Not specifically, we did not explore that option.
I know a lot of cities up here tend to do that, gets away from the organic treatment of surface water.
Sure, it's a question I'll bring back to our team for sure.
The other thing I think it's important to touch on when we talk about this funding is they do require that your utility bills are raised, so you meet the minimum affordability for your community. And so that does mean that as part of any project we do with this type of funding, we will be required to raise utility bills just like we were for wastewater and continue to raise them throughout the length of the loan. So that is a requirement of any type of funding that we receive.
And then on that too, kind of continuing that conversations, once the affordability threshold has been reached, and that's based off of like, basically some of the metrics that we have here, it's like, what's your median household income, things like that. Once that's defined, after you meet that threshold, it's easier to get full grant through PFA and other sources. So what that means is that once you do the water project, there's an opportunity here to maximize your quote unquote debt, your affordability. Then you can start looking at water main projects and other sort of improvements that are gonna come full grant to the city. So there's a benefit in some ways to maximizing that threshold, even though it is going into debt, that allows you to make future plans. So in many cases, we recommend, once you hit that threshold, why not submit applications for water main projects or other projects that would benefit the city that you can get fully covered in the future years. So that's another thing that's part of this whole deal. If you look at a rehab of the plant, you might expend up to a certain amount, not hit that threshold, yes, you have the net savings, but the next 2 years, you do a water main project or something, you proceed with PFA, you still have, you haven't met your threshold yet, so that project will still come out of pocket per se. So there are some antics here that we can work with on, does it make more sense to pursue one proposed project, even though it might be slightly higher cost, that gets you long-term benefit, so. At least in the next 10 years.
What's the timeline on the full study being finished?
Well, sure, we're targeting getting that to you guys, around June timetable. And with that, what we have is we deliver the report with its recommendations and details. We'll provide you context on the options that you see laid out in the letters here today, but also provides a description of the cost model along with Google looks at demand usages, other sort of metrics that the city of Wooded Lakes utilizes. And then we'll come back and basically have a presentation and provide some in-depth discussion on what was the finding from the study, so. And then again, at such a point later this year, if you guys decide that you'd like to select a different project, like I said, we're more than happy to amend the letters in the application. This is just, again, just to kind of get things started in the process, so.
Could you make a motion on each of these?
Yeah, for each one.
All right, for 11-1, could I get a motion for the placement of water project on 2025 prior list for the drinking water revolving loan fund, and so the Department of Health and then DPL.
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Councilor Graham, is there support? I'll support that. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 11-2 is the placement of water project 2025 intended use plan for drinking water revolving loan fund.
One comment on this one, on the second page, it's the city of Hill City, so that doesn't get corrected.
Apologize on that.
Good eye. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Councilor Boyd, is there support?
Support.
Supported by Councilor Graham. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Anybody else have any questions for Jake? Thank you.
Very good, thank you.
Okay, 11-3. Is a Ranger ATV snowmobile club pay request number 1 for the Moose 7 Beavers Trail from Guava to Skygo in the amount of $170,490.35.
Number 3 and number 4 are both for the Ranger ATV Snowmobile Club. Just a reminder, we are passed through for these funds, and so we will expend them and then get reimbursed from LCC.
Is there a motion to approve 11-3 in the amount of $170,490.35?
Make that motion.
Motion made by Councilor Borgard, is there support?
I'll support that.
Supported by Councilor Scott. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 11-4. Ranger ATV Snowmobile Club to SEH for the Moose 7 Beavers Trail from Guava to Skygo in the amount of $10,292.86. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Councilor Scott, is there support? I'll support that. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. All right, 11-5 invoice in the amount of $1,500 to the White Lakes Garden Club.
So annually, the garden club submits an invoice to us for flowers around town, and this year it's $1,500.
This is something that we've been doing for many years. The Garden Club does a wonderful job of, making the entries in the downtown area looking very nice. I think this is something that, very important to the city, and I would make a motion to approve.
In the letter, they're asking for at least 1,500, but it'd be nice if they had more. Is there any discussion there, maybe increasing it a little?
You budgeted 1,500,
Mhm.
but if you want to do more than that, I would think you could do more as well.
And I know they, as of the April meeting, they hadn't asked the chamber for our funds yet, and we usually give them at least 1,000. I think we already talked about waiting for their, request that we would double that for this year. At least, so they are asking the Chamber of Commerce still to have the May meeting.
Well, we're budgeted for 1,500. That would be my motion. Somebody wants to change that or make a motion to change it and finally talk to
And support that motion.
it? Who made by Mayor Zinn, supported by Councilor Grams. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 11.6 is the resolution 2024-005 to apply to Department of Resources and Rehabilitation Regional Trails Program.
So this grant application is for the Midway area improvements, and so this would be specifically for the bike trails, paved trails in the Midway area and to the beach, as well as a trailhead parking lot, which is currently being called the Youth Center parking lot, now being called the trailhead parking lot. So this would be a one-to-one match grant from IRRR, and so the application is for $37,500 grant funds.
Is there a motion to approve?
This is the total cost that's left after the other funding.
This is just for the trails. So the IRRR hasn't put any other funds in, they just wanted to focus on the trails.
We had talked about that as a whole new project.
Yeah, yeah, and so this pulls that, the trail project out, that Midway area.
I would make a motion to apply for the trails grant.
Motion made by Councilor Graham, is there support?
All support.
Supported by Councilor Bordeaux. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 11.7, the resolution 2024-006 to apply to the Health Resources and Services Administration Rural Communities Opioid Response Program.
EMS Director Olmsted brought this grant forward to apply for a new top for one of the ambulances. And so it's a federal grant application, and we might as well apply for it and maybe we'll get it.
All right, is there a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Councilor Scott, is there support?
All support.
Supported by Councilor Borgard. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, this 11.8 is mosquito control contract with DNB Environmental Services.
So annually you approve this contract for mosquito spraying services and insect control. And last year, the contract amount was $10,800 plus $2,700 for chemicals, and this year they are requesting the contract itself be increased by $550.
And where do they spray?
They spray at the golf course, they do black pipe treatment at the golf course, Fisherman's Point, and the beach midway area.
When was the last time the contract was increased?
I couldn't tell you, it was before I got here. So.
So you've been working with these folks for.
Yes. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Council Borger. Support. I'll support that. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Item 9, recommendation to hire fire department secretary.
And the recommendation is to appoint Cody Hansen to fire department secretary.
Is there a motion to approve? Motion made by Council Scott, to support,
I'll support.
moved by Council Grant. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. And 11:10, recommendation to hire fire department captains.
The recommendation to hire Dan Dudley for the position of fire department.
Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Councilor Scott, is there support? I'll support that. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. And is there a motion to adjourn?
Make that motion.
Motion made by Council Graham, is there support?
I'll support.
Supported by Council Borger. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?